Welcome to Ninth Octopus. 'Tis the season, and therefore I am going to share with you my experience as a Macy's Santa at the Macy's Santaland in New York City. Now, this is going back to December of 1985, so here we go. We're time traveling. Ooh, thank you. All right, so I was in need of a job. And at the time, I was hanging out as I usually would do, looking at the want ads. And a pal of mine showed up at this bar that I was hanging out. And he says to me, "Brother, do you need a job?" Well, I guess a couple of things gave it away. Primarily, I was there at a bar in the middle of the day, and two, I had the want ads open. So I said, "Yeah, I actually do." He said, "Well, I've got a great gig to share with you about." I said, "What is it?" And he told me that he was working as a Santa Claus at the Macy's in the city in New York. I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess so. How much does it pay?" Now, back then, the get this, the hourly wage for being a Santa Claus, starting out anyway, was $6.50 an hour. But in 1985, when you are spending your last dollars, unfortunately not on booze but on Coca-Cola, you think, okay, I'll take that $6.50 hour job. So lo and behold, he introduced me to the person who recruits the Santa Clauses. And they gave me the overview of what the job would entail. Said I would need a couple of hours of Santa training. Now, you're going back to 1985. There were no computers or background checks. Not that I needed one. But pretty much anybody who wanted to apply for a Santa Claus job, as long as you could pull off wearing the red suit, they would hire you. And there were Santas of all shapes, sizes, and colors. There was nobody saying, well, you have to be overweight or you have to be a certain size. There were small Santas, there were tall Santas, because the suit provides you all the padding and extra layers of bulk that one would need. And everyone would get a nickname that was working there so you could better identify what Santa you were talking about when you were backstage, so to speak. You had a very religious fella. He was a Christian dude. And so they called him Santa Jesus. And then you had another guy working there, had a very thick Brooklyn accent, so naturally he was Brooklyn Santa. And of course, my southern accent would come through occasionally, even though I was being slowly threaded out through living in New York City as long as I was. But of course, I was called Southern Santa. So we've got about 15 or 18 Santa Clauses working at Macy's. Now, here's the trick. They don't have, if you've ever been there to Macy's Santaland in New York City, what Santaland is a huge maze where the other people that work there who are dressed as the elves, they guide and control the traffic. They're able to siphon off the line. So they'll send some people to the left, some people to the right, and then others straight beyond. And then they'll come to another intersection and they will be further directed to go left, right, or continue forward. What's happening is there are 6 Santa rooms, each one decorated differently. Some loaded with like teddy bears, for example, on the walls. Others might have train sets and another variety of toys. The pictures on the walls would vary from various winter snowscapes and scenes of the North Pole, or perhaps posters or drawings of Santa flying in his sleigh. So you would just be in this room waiting for the children and adults, because that was one of the things that was really beautiful about the job, was that not only would children show up, but grown-ups would come. It was just a fun thing to do. You go to Santa Land, get into the spirit of the Christmas spirit, etc. So when I did the Santa training, what was fascinating was one of the first things they taught you was don't ho ho ho. You'll scare the hell out of the kid. So they always suggested that when you meet the children, that you do more of a, oh, a gentle kind of thing. So I can handle that. I could do that because you may or may not remember, if you've seen some of my other videos, I was the original prototype for Barney, the purple dinosaur. Yes. So I have that thing where I can be, really like, oh. So it was just meant to be for me to wear the Santa suit, you see. So anyway, and that's pretty much it. You watch your ho ho hoing and your volume, and also when you greet the children, you don't necessarily call them child or children. Refer to them as my little friend. The kids like that, puts them at ease. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. This is going to be great. Now they don't give you like practice rehearsal children or little friends to work with. I mean, literally, you put on the suit, you get that makeup on. There's something called spirit gum to keep the beard in place and keep your eyebrows from falling off from underneath your hat. And bam, you're led into one of the Santa rooms by an elf. And by the way, the elf that is attending Santa Claus has a dual purpose. Not only are they there to assist Santa Claus by making sure that he has plenty of, water to drink when he gets thirsty and things like that, or bring Santa a snack between people coming into the room, but the elf is there to take the pictures because let's face it, although it's sweet and nice and wonderful that Macy's is providing this Santaland experience for people, there's some money to be made, my friends, with the photographs. Or, I'm getting paid $6.50 an hour for doing this gig, and people are laying down $25, $30 to get their photograph made with Santa, if you know what I mean. So there's a money making operation, to be sure. Anyway, I'm sitting there with my lovely elf, who, by the way, the elves were wonderful. Ended up dating a couple of elves. Great girls. Loved them. We had a great time. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm a little nervous. I got to tell you, I'm like, I've got the training, but I've never had any live people to work with to, sit on my lap and tell me their Christmas wishes and me interact with them. It's totally ad lib. I'm totally going to wing it. Well, there I am. I'm sitting there and I look up, and one of the elves outside who guide people into the room showed me two parents, mom and dad, with their twin boys dressed identical in green and red plaid. Blonde little boys, adorable. One of them came running toward me, leapt right on my lap, gave me a hug, and almost immediately began to tell me what he wanted for Christmas. The identical twin melted in tears and fear and crying and refused to let go of his mother's leg, would not take an inch toward me, totally petrified and feared. And we got a little bit of warning about that in Santa class, because in Santa class, one of the things we were told was that for a lot of these children, they've not been maybe so good through the year. And they've been told these tales that Santa Claus, if you've been naughty, Santa knows. Sure, Santa knows if you've been good, but Santa also knows if you've been naughty. And so for a child to appear before this huge dude wearing this white beard and this huge red coat, surrounded by all this mystical, magical Christmas opulence. For these children, a lot of them, it was like going before the great white throne of judgment, if you follow what I'm saying. For those of you who are familiar with some biblical literature. So that kid was terrified. But what was great about that for me was that in one shot, I got the best and the worst of what can happen. I got a kid who loved Santa Claus so much, he couldn't wait to just let me know what he wanted. And then you had a kid who was petrified and couldn't wait to get the hell out of that room. So the little boy back then, what was huge back then? Oh, Masters of the Universe toys, Castle Grayskull, all that stuff. That was huge. So he definitely wanted that. And then I gently moved the conversation over to the other child. I just told the little boy that Santa Claus cared for him, and I know that he had been a good boy. And is there anything that he wants me to get him for Christmas? And he, of course, wouldn't say anything, but his brother took over for him, the brother in the lap, and he very definitely said, "Oh, you can get him a football." And I thought that was quite humorous because I at that point had seen the movie A Christmas Story, which was quite fascinating. So that pretty much is the best and the worst of it. As far as somebody jumping on your lap and or not and telling you what they wanted or don't want. I did have some people come in who just enjoyed the fact that they were able to sit down and have a few moments with Saint Nick. Um, and what was really weird was that of the six houses, and the illusion is maintained that you don't know that there are six houses. You think there's only one house that you're headed to. So they do a fabulous, magnificent job of this. There was one room, one Santa room, where there was a window where people could look in and peek and see the room. Now, some people would end up in that room, of course, and they thought, again, that that was the only Santa room that was in the complex. But unbeknownst to them, there were five others. So it would be possible to go through the tour, as it were, twice in the same day and end up in a totally different house with a totally different uh, character Santa. So I hope you enjoyed that story. Some Christmas seasons I look forward to. Some it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already here. This one so far is kind of in the middle. I mean, it's already the 4th of December, and it just seems like I blinked and it had been the middle of July, and yet here we are. Thank you for watching. If you want to, please share. I would enjoy your comments about any Santa stories that you may have, or if you have also maybe portrayed Saint Nick at one time in your life. Um, Please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, please click that bell so you can get notified of future uploads. Have a great day and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Winter Festival, whatever your purpose is in having a great time and enjoying the season. Have a great day.